My name is Nissan Joseph, and I am GM of Crocs Korea and Tier 2 markets. Well, I think we're in an interesting state of time today as we try to figure out it wasn't the game that we thought it was going to be of e-tail or brick and mortar. I think now there's going to be more of a blending. It's a little bit different from the word omni-channel. It's about how retailers approach the consumer experience and use both sides of retail for immersion. So the first thing I'm going to tell you that's going to change in retail is how the whole immersion quotient comes to play and comes to life in brands and bringing the two sides of retail together. The second force I see is personalization. So we've been able to personalize the consumer journey through the website. Now I think we're going to be able to personalize the journey through product at the store level, and we see that we're doing that with Crocs today. When you come in, you're able to personalize your shoes a little bit more. There are shoe companies that you can go in and start picking and choosing colors to manufacture just for you, almost like a C2M model, consumer to manufacturer model, saying the consumer tells the manufacturer what they want, right? So that's the second force. And I think the third force that definitely starts to play into all of these things is how emotionally connected a person becomes with a brand. So that's going to be more important. There used to be a time when retail was very fragmented. There was a lot of brands, there was a lot of players. There's going to be fewer players out there. The players that survive are the ones that can emotionally connect and hold on to a consumer. So those to me are really not what the biggest predictions of retail are, but from my standpoint, what I see as the three biggest forces that we might be playing to in the coming future. What we see is a consumer that's slightly different today, a consumer that's more educated, a consumer that's more caring, a consumer that's more aware. So when they look at the forces of climate change or they see the forces going on around them, they want to make sure that the brands they interact with appeal to those parts that the consumer cares about. That kind of interaction, that kind of emotional connect is a little hard to do just on a screen, right? So, I mean, if you look at one of the biggest websites is dating in e-commerce, right? At some point it ends up in a face-to-face. It's hard to form a connection just singularly on a two-dimensional screen. I think brick and mortar plays to that same space. At some point you want your consumers in a fashion space, in the consumer space, to interact with your brand. Where there's a personal product, there has to be a personal interaction at some point for them to really believe in your brand. Of course, if you get that product to them through e-commerce, great, but try to get them to buy that first product through e-commerce is a little bit harder. So I see the future of brick and mortar being really important for brands that are committed to making a connection and having an ongoing relationship with the consumer. Well, e-commerce is a very important question that all brands are asking themselves, and what better place to figure it out than in a conference of professionals that do and speak to it. So that's number one. The other thing I find fascinating about the e-tail conference is when I look through the agenda and the variety and the depth of topics that were covered were very interesting, and it also offered me a chance to ask questions or learn things that I would not normally have even thought to learn or thought to ask or thought to reach out for suggestions. So it was the mix and the variety and the richness of the agenda items and the speakers that came with it. So that was the two biggest drivers for me coming to the conference. My takeaway from this conference is, amazingly, we're hearing more about the offline experience, which is the first time it's happened. I used to go to conferences and all you heard about was the online experience. As that experience is getting matured and very refined, we're seeing the importance of offline starting to poke its head up just a little bit again, which I thought was fascinating. And then the whole concept of personalization now being an expectation across the board, whether it's in my interactions with the brick and mortar store or especially in my interactions in the e-commerce space. So the key message here, the second key message I'm walking away with is personalization.